let me thank the Santa Clara Psychology Association for all the work you do in the community to help those with mental health issues, to promote healthy living, good mental health, to help people who have faced trauma. Many folks in our community, because of the targeting of immigrants, are facing this trauma, to help young kids, to help stand up for the rights of marginalized and their emotional needs. I want to applaud you for all your work. I want to express my deep gratitude and humility for this award as Legislator of the Year, and I am so honored to be recognized with Dr. Christine Blasey Ford, who is really a hero to the nation.
So are you for us.
Well, I mean, I appreciate the work I'm doing, but Dr. Christine Blasey Ford is really a hero, and so to be honored with her, she had the courage to help educate the whole nation about the importance of standing up against sexual assault, sexual harassment, sexual violence, and it took such courage, such dignity with what she did, such courage really to tell her story to the whole country. So I salute her, and I appreciate your recognizing her as Psychologist of the Year. I appreciate you recognizing our office for the work we're doing to help immigrants have a voice in this country and have due process and basic rights. I appreciate you recognizing the work we've done in our schools on mental health issues and well-being issues, which is so important for so many of our high school kids, even in junior high, who are growing up with so much stress in their life, and continuing to do work on fighting for what is right. You mentioned the trans time issue. I led that for 2 years to get a defense contractor that was ripping off the American people by overcharging to return $16.1 million that they owed the taxpayers. I have fought very hard to stop our bombing of the Saudi bombing of Yemen and our refueling of those planes to stand up for human rights in Yemen. And I have stood up for the rule of law. And at a time with the Mueller report that is being talked about today, with Bob Mueller testifying, we have needed now more than ever people in Congress standing up for the rule of law. Abraham Lincoln talked about having a culture of reverence for our laws and our Constitution. And we need to do that not just in Congress, but in every community, to have that public-spirited conversation about our duty to our nation, to our country, laws and Constitution. And I know your organization is at the forefront of that civic work. So I am honored by your recognition, and I salute you for all the work you do in our community.
Well, it's definitely a group effort. Together today we have Dr. Nita Mukherjee. She's our local access network, who's the government relations person. And also Dr. Asifa Weber, who's actually a forensic psychologist, and also an early career, and she's also very much involved in helping many of the immigrants or individuals who may be having challenges.
Thank you for your work.
You're welcome.
So one of the other interesting things that we want to find is like, how is it Washington? How is this out of chaotic environment you're able to get something done? And how is it with a split Congress?
Well, it's hard. I'm not going to lie to you. I mean, it's a polarized time. It's a toxic environment. But I've tried to work to find some common ground. I've had 2 bills that actually President Trump has signed. One to provide veterans with apprenticeships, another to modernize our websites. I got to Congress and I said, I don't understand how the most powerful institution in the world has websites that are out of date. How can we have all these amazing websites in Silicon Valley? Why can't the United States government do that? And we passed a law to modernize all our federal websites. So I've had 2 of these laws passed. I've had the War Powers Resolution to stop our aiding the Saudis in the war in Yemen passed both the House and the Senate. And I have good friends actually on both sides of the aisle. I work closely with people like Andy Briggs, Mark Meadows, Rob Portman, Republicans who I don't agree with on many issues, but where we can find common ground, I try to do that.
One of the things that psychologists have been advocating at the federal level is that to have individuals have Medicare for health care,
Yes.
be able to access psychological services without really having to go through a primary care physician, a chiropractor, an optometrist, or another type of physician. So I'm wondering, what are your thoughts about that, given that many of the things are causing trauma and stress within the
particularly
country.
what he's saying is, whereas other doctorate level people are recognized and they don't have to go to medical doctors, psychologists, they have to go through the medical doctor.
Right.
So that law should be changed.
I agree with that. I think we need to have, everyone should have access in Medicare or their insurance and a national health care of Medicare for all to see a psychologist, because mental health is just as important as physical health. In fact, sometimes you can argue it's more important.
Much more.
So any person who needs a doctor or a psychologist should be able to do that, and Medicare should cover that, and we should extend Medicare for every individual. So I strongly support that change in legislation, and as you know, I've co-sponsored legislation to make sure people have access to a psychologist and don't have to go to a primary doctor for that referral.
And we definitely appreciate that. Many of the things that are also happening with elections, you also are vice chair for the Bernie Sanders campaign. What led you to do that, and what are you hoping to see, given that it is a very crowded space?
Yeah, well, we've got 24 very good candidates, and I will support whoever the Democratic nominee is. I worked with Senator Sanders to stop our support of the war in Yemen, and that's why we did a lot of work together, and our war powers resolution passed. That's why I'm supporting him. But I have great respect for a lot of the candidates, for our home state senator Kamala Harris, for Elizabeth Warren, for Cory Booker, for many of the candidates, and I'm passionate about Senator Sanders, and then whoever wins, I'll get behind them. I do think we need a change in the White House.
Okay. Immigration?
Well, we also wanted to know, many of us are green card holders.
Yes.
Right? Don't you think that we are paying all the taxes? We have a right to live here. We should also be allowed to vote.
Well, I think we need to expedite the process to get citizenship. I mean, I think it's fine to have a requirement to become a citizen to vote. That has been the law of the land. But I think too often we have people who are stuck in a backlog. They have to wait for years and years and years, and they're participating in society, law-abiding, creating value, and they're not being able to become citizens. So what I would like to see is us to help facilitate citizenship.
So many psychologists are very much focused on treatment, and sometimes we wonder, how can psychologists at the local level can help either the local legislators or even the federal legislators, and how we have over 300 psychologists in the organization, many expertise, many individuals who are willing to provide their knowledge base for healthcare policies. So I'm wondering whether you have any thoughts about how psychologists can be of assistance to your office or to anybody else in Washington.
Well, we'd love for people to get involved. I think they can work with our district office to help in cases where people need counseling in immigration cases. That could be very helpful. They can help in informing us about policy changes that we need so people have more access to psychologists and mental health services. And they can be a voice for universal health care so that we can make sure everyone in this country has the right to health care.
And one
final question, then
yes.
I had a question about so the student loan debt being as high as it is and the cost of tuition being as high as it is, it's really difficult to get diverse candidates through the doctoral program to become
That's a great point.
psychologists. And I was wondering what your thoughts are on how we can get more diversity into our field.
Well, we need free tuition in public colleges, and that we can pay for by not being in war in Afghanistan. For the cost of 1 year, you get $40 billion, which you could use to pay for a free public college. I mean, free public college would be the cost of 2 years in Afghanistan. And then we need to be more investment in PhD students and doctoral students who are willing to go in and pursue higher education so that they don't graduate with that kind of debt. Because if you look at it, African American women actually have the highest student debt of any demographic. So these debt is hurting people where you have a racial wealth gap, and that's preventing people from having access to opportunity. So I appreciate you raising that. One of the big reasons we need to make college tuition free and affordable is to promote greater diversity.
Thank you.